Uh, this is Makaria Drake with Talk Live, and today in our CosMom episode, we're going to be talking about purchasing cosplays. So this was one of my earlier newsletters on my Patreon, and it's still up. I'm going to go through some of it in our session today. But it's a question I get asked a lot is advice on where to buy cosplays, and I know currently, and there always has been kind of this feeling about um, purchasing cosplays versus making cosplays. And honestly, like we have our opinions about it, but either one is fine. Nothing makes one better than the other. It's whatever is the best choice for you. So purchasing cosplays is a totally viable way to cosplay, and I've made my cosplays when I first started out. I always made my cosplays, and then as I got older, I purchased cosplays as well because they became so much more accessible. When I first started cosplaying, you really couldn't purchase cosplays very easily. There were no websites that shipped to America. You had to go through like a third party, and there's all these sizing issues, and it was just not an easy option like it is today. So it's kind of amazing that we can easily now order cosplays and get them. Like we can even go on Amazon and purchase a cosplay and get it, the same week. So that's really cool. So today we're going to go over some of the pros and cons and some of the websites and just some advice and tips on purchasing a cosplay and what to look for. So this is the newsletter. I printed it out, but on my Patreon, and we'll drop the link in the chat. But this is if you scroll towards the bottom, but it's has a lot of information about purchasing a cosplay. So if you are purchasing for the first time, this would be a really good thing to read through and look at. Super helpful for first time buyers. And, even for veteran buyers, there might be some sites you've never heard of or some information you don't know. So, but my first page talked about pros and cons of purchasing cosplays. So obviously, when you're purchasing a cosplay, it saves you a ton of time. You don't have to make anything. So it's the best option for people who don't know how to sew yet, who maybe are more prop makers versus sewers, that sort of thing. It's great for group cosplays because you have more uniformity. So each person can purchase their character from the same site. So you kind of have this uniformity going on. So it's great for that. And there's lots of online options now. So you have different sites for the same costume. So you can kind of choose the one that's right for you, price point and quality wise. Some of the cons, larger sizes are generally still often unavailable. And this is kind of something that's been a struggle for literally ever. Anything over any sort of plus size costumes are just kind of difficult to get nowadays. You usually have to choose the custom size option because even like a 3XL size, which we'll get into sizing in a minute, is still really just like an American size large or extra large. So if you need something larger, chances are you're going to have to order a custom size. So it's still an option, but it will take longer than just purchasing the cosplay. I have found one of the cons is that a lot of times the accessories are often of lower quality or don't often match the size of the costume that you're purchasing. So sometimes the belt might not be like the right size. Sometimes the accessories are like plastic or kind of cheap or just like vinyl pieces, stuff like that. So that's kind of something to look out for. And we'll talk about looking at quality too in this session. And sometimes there's a longer wait. So depending on what site you're ordering from and what costume you're buying, it's sometimes you've got to wait weeks in order to get your costume. So that's kind of a con if you're ordering a costume and you have to wait a long time for it. Sometimes it can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months if you're depending on if you're ordering a custom size or if you're pre-ordering something, things like that. So what to look for when you are purchasing your cosplay. So there's a lot of different sites, and I'll go over those in a minute. But on my little newsletter, there's a whole section of what to look for when you are purchasing a cosplay. And these are all my opinions. If you have other things that you feel you want to look for, you can drop them in the chat. Mention them if you think that this is something that you personally look for when you're looking at costumes. So one of the things that I really look for are pictures of close-up details. And I think about like Genshin Impact costumes. There's so many of these little pieces and these little vinyl decals and all of these designs. And so you want to look for pictures of up close details. See if these things are just glued on, are they stitched on, are they just printed on? Because a lot of times things will look like they're another piece, but they're actually just the design printed on top. And so it depends on what you're looking for, right? You can usually tell if something is ironed on or glued on or stitched on with these close-up images. If you're looking for the difference between something that's lower quality and something that's higher quality, higher qualities costumes are generally going to have the stitching on top. They're not just glued or ironed on. They usually have pleather or like vinyl details, so there's kind of a more 3D effect going on, and they're fully lined. So a higher quality costume is going to have something on the inside rather than just all the exposed seams and exposed edges. Something that's going to make it last longer. Linings do help with the wear and tear of your costume, make it last longer, and it makes it higher quality. So, sorry. I also look for if they show all of the items in a picture. A lot of times they'll just show like the costume being worn, and that doesn't tell me a whole lot because that picture could be photoshopped. That model could be very different looking than me. It could be, I can't tell what pieces are attached to each other, what are separate pieces. Is everything in the picture included or not? So if they have something kind of like this, where it breaks down every little piece and it's laying out, you can kind of tell what all of your pieces are. And that's very helpful in knowing how many pieces you're getting, what's included, and what pieces are connected. The other thing I look for are reviews. Just like if you're shopping on Amazon or any place, if they have reviews attached to that costume, I would definitely look at those reviews and see what people say. Does the costume run big? Are there certain things they don't like? Does it not come with something that's pictured or whatever? You can read all of those in their reviews, and people will post pictures of themselves wearing it, all that good stuff. So you can really get an idea of what this costume looks like. I would also look for matching props, shoes, wigs, and be aware that cosplay shoes like on the same site, because sometimes you can buy like everything you need. So you can buy the costume and the wig and the shoes and the prop all on the same site. But just kind of be aware they might not be the best quality. I find that cosplay shoes are generally one of the items that I will just alter myself. Like I'll buy a good pair of shoes and then alter those, because generally cosplay shoes are not made for comfort at all. They're made to match the costume. So they're generally, vinyl, not great soles, not a lot of support. So while they're accurate and you don't have to do anything, but they might not be the best shoes to wear all day long if you're wearing a cosplay. So just some food for thought there. So we're going to move on to our next page here. So on my newsletter, I actually did a couple of things. I have a whole chart here, and it's backwards, but I went through all the cosplay sites that I know of and that people use a lot, which is Mick Costumes, Doki Doki Cosplay, Uwu Cosplay, Easy Cosplay, Cosguy, Pro Cosplay, Roll Cosplay, and Heroes Time. And I went through all of these sites and I kind of gave them like a ranking for the quality, speed, selection, and the sizes available. So it's super easy to see all of the different ratings that I gave these different companies for those different things. And so we just all of the links to these sites are in the chat, or most of them, so that you can kind of look at them as well. But the ones that I think people purchase the most from are Mitt Costumes, Doki Doki Cosplay, Uwu Cosplay, and Easy Cosplay for anime cosplays. And so when I say that, I'm not a huge superhero cosplayer, but there are a few on here that have superhero costumes. So if you're someone who does a lot of superhero cosplays, you might have a different site. But I know Heroes Time on here is also one that has a lot of like superhero costumes. But some of the most popular ones, like Mitt Costumes, they become really popular and accessible. So I think they're one of the easiest ones to purchase cosplays from. They have cosplays on Amazon. They have a site with some plus sizes, so they have some selection, not with all of their costumes, but with some. They're pretty fast. They have stuff that's ready to ship right away, so you can get things quicker. And their quality is generally kind of in the middle. So some of it can be pretty good, some of it is okay. Doki Doki Cosplay, I think their quality overall, the cosplays that I bought from them have been pretty good. And they even have like a choice between, you can buy like a regular cosplay and then like an SR cosplay, which means it's like, it's a little bit more expensive, but it has more quality details to it. So I think their quality is higher. They're a little slower. They take a while for you to get your cosplay. They have a pretty decent selection, and but unfortunately, they don't have a ton of sizes. They have like a triple XL, which you'll see this all the time on cosplay sites where they have an extra small to a triple XL, and you would think, oh, cool, like a triple XL, that must be pretty big size, right? But it's not. So I actually, in my newsletter, I put a standard size chart. And the size charts might be in centimeters or inches. It's probably in centimeters because that's how most Asian sizes are, almost other sizes everywhere are calculated. But you'll see that a small, like an extra large, their bust on an extra large is 95 to 100 centimeters, which is less than like, it's about like 40 inches for a bust. So that's not too bad, but on some of the sites, a 3XL is about the same size. So if you are like a 44 bust, a triple XL might fit you, but like a triple XL here is just like a large or an extra large in American sizes. So if you are a plus size person, if you're a size 14, 16, 18, they might not have sizes for you even at a triple XL because that's an Asian size. So make sure you're paying attention to these size charts and seeing, because your American size is not going to be the same as these sizes here. So make sure you're definitely checking those size guides and what you would be. And if you don't fit in here, they might have a custom size option where you just put in your measurements and then you can custom order it. And it usually takes a little bit longer because now they're actually making that costume for you. They might have an additional charge for that as well. So, but I'm not going to go through all of these, but Uwu Cosplay and Easy Cosplay got the best, and Heroes Time got the best ranks for size options. They did have a lot more plus size options. And for quality, Uwu Cosplay and Doki Doki Cosplay and Heroes Time got high ranks for quality as well. So if you want to check out any of those sites, you can look down in the, you can look in the chat, and if you have you can jump on my Patreon and also look at this chart. So, but it's a good overall general chart. And if you have another site that I didn't list that you know of, because this is a little over a year old now, so there might be other sites going on that you would purchase from. But let me know if there's other sites that you purchase from that aren't listed here. You could also just let me know like what you like about those sites as well, if you've ordered from them and what your experience was. I've had a couple of issues. Most of the cosplays that I bought from Doki Doki Cosplay and Uu Cosplay were Genshin Impact costumes. Which, if you've ever bought a Genshin cosplay, there's like 1,000 pieces. Every little thing is like another piece. So, but they did a pretty good job with including all those pieces and making them kind of easy to put on and figure out. I know that's not the case with every Genshin cosplay, but the ones that I purchased, they were pretty good. So, um, okay. So you look through all of these sites and maybe the cosplay that you want doesn't exist. Like maybe it's very niche, maybe it's very old, or maybe it's very new and they don't have that option available. But you don't sew, but you're willing to pay money. So you can, there's a couple of options that you can go with. So this was a thing when I first started, and it's still a thing, but it's Taobao sites. And I'm going to not say this correctly, but Behiner or Beaner, I don't know, or Biner, Bhiner. And what that basically is Taobao is an online shopping platform in China. And basically, you pay them, they will purchase the cosplay from a Chinese site that does not ship to America, and then they ship it to you. When I was into Lolita years and years and years back, that's how we bought Lolita dresses because we couldn't, they did not ship them to the United States. So we'd have to go through like this third party shopping site. And that's what that is. And so if you wanted to buy something from a Chinese site that's not available in America, because sometimes they have way more options for cosplay, you could use a site like Behiner. And basically, if you go to that site, if you scroll to the bottom, there is a little link that says how Behiner works, and then you click on it and it will give you a first time shopper link, and you can go through and read about how it works. Generally, I know it sounds like that's a lot of steps and a lot more money, but sometimes it's actually cheaper because it's not the costume itself is cheaper there. So it might be an option for you. Unfortunately, if there's probably not going to be a lot of plus size options with this option, but it is something you can use and works really well. I'm going to see if I can get that link for you. Yeah, it's so it can be put in the chat here. But so Taobao is the site where you can find all the cosplays, and then if you actually want to purchase one of them, then you go to the Behiner website, and that will do the purchasing for you. So it's like the shopper for Taobao. Okay, it's almost like ordering your groceries through, a Dash service. Someone else is going and purchasing them after you've already paid, and then bringing them to you. It's kind of like that. One of the other things that you could do is commission. So generally, this is a much more expensive option. But if you're looking for something where it's really special to you, you really want it to look a certain way, you're having trouble finding your size, and you want it to really look nice, you have a lot of stipulations or things you want done, and or maybe you just want someone who can do all the things together, because props and like armor pieces with the costume, a lot of times I will purchase a costume, and because like I said earlier, the accessories or like the pieces, a lot of times like armor pieces are just vinyl with decals ironed on and things like that. So I might purchase a costume and then remake a lot of the accessories myself, so that it kind of gives it a higher quality look, or a better look than what I was given with the costume itself. So that's a really good way to up your cosplay, is to make your own armor pieces, your own props, or your own accessories. Those, that can go a long way. So if you get something and you're like, oh, I ordered a Rosalina cosplay from Mick Costumes, and it was fine. It was a good dress, and the material was good. It was fully lined, and it was way better than I expected at the price point that I paid. I think it was like $45. Really decent. Um, it was really long, but at least aside from that, it was good. The only thing I hated was the brooch, and the brooch was like silver vinyl with like a really sparkly gem in the middle of it. And I really hated that. So I just remade, I took, it was just sewn on. So I could easily just cut those threads, pull it off. And then I replaced it with a actual, plastic brooch with a domed center. So it was more accurate to hers. And that made a huge difference. So a lot of those things can make a big difference. And I'm going to before I jump into commissions, I also want to say that if you're a tall person, make sure that you are checking the height and length of things, because a lot of the models that you're looking at are like 5'2". So if you are over 5'5", a lot of the things you're looking at are going to fit you way different. So just be careful about torso length, leg lengths. If you're looking at skirts, see if you can get a measurement for how long those skirts are to make sure they're going to be long enough for you. Sometimes like slits up the sides that are supposed to be thigh high might be like way higher than you're expecting them to be. Some things like that. So just kind of be aware of the height difference between a lot of the pictures that you're seeing and what it's going to look like on you. And that you might have to do some sort of customization because you're tall and not because you're plus size. So something else to think about, make sure you're checking those things. And if you are getting, if it doesn't show anything, most of these companies do have chats or emails, and you can ask them questions. Can you tell me how long this is? Or can you give me details about what this comes with, all those sort of things. And usually they get back to you pretty quickly. So if you do have more questions, you can ask the site about specific measurements and things like that. All right, so if we're looking at commissions, you are going to generally pay a lot more. When I had my commission business, I would generally tell my clients to expect to pay between $500 and $1,500 for a cosplay, depending on the details and the techniques involved and what they were getting. So if that's something that you're interested in doing for something that you want to wear for a really long time, something that you want to be perfect, something that you want to be very custom fit to you, it's a great road to go down. I would look on Etsy, has a lot of cosplay commissioners. That's where I got a lot of messages and information from. There's also a site called CosMom, and that is, I'll put it in the chat for you. And it's kind of a neat site. Basically, it is a giant site for makers to advertise themselves and find commission. So you can go on there and find commissioners. Commissioners can show their work on there, and you can see who's accepting new clients. You can get quotes. You can see their previous work, all that sort of stuff. You can also just ask around at cons. If you run into someone who got a cosplay that was made, you can be like, oh, cool. Who made it for you? Can I get their information? And, they'll definitely spread the word. So there's a couple of different ways to find commissioners. Generally, most commissioners, I think, would take a deposit, and then you can also make payments. So if that cosplay is really expensive, you can have a payment plan for it. All right, so that's for commissions, is definitely an option. Before we close, there's a couple of things I want to suggest to dress up your purchase cosplay. So we talked about replacing some of the parts. Something else that you can do to add more quality or more accuracy or just a little bit more um, 3D effect to your cosplays. Wearing petticoats, wearing the correct undergarments for your cosplays. So I think goes a long way to petticoats to puff up maid styles, Lolita style costumes, things like that. So if you don't have a petticoat and you're buying a cosplay where they're very puffy skirt in the picture, they're not going to send you that petticoat. So you are going to want to add it. And that's definitely a good item that you can use over and over again. So I would invest in one. Puppy paints and airbrushing. So if you have a costume and if you know how to airbrush, but you can go over little designs with puffy paint, make them more three-dimensional. You can add some gradient or some shadowing or things like that with an airbrush to enhance your cosplay. And that does really well with like superhero suits, certain close-fitting garments, or creating distressed details or certain things like that. You can add some paint, you can add some color and kind of step up your cosplay. Um, Also, so when we talked about weathering, so if you have Borderlands cosplay or, a video game cosplay or, Tomb Raider, all of these, Fallout, all of these like, desert or you're running around saving people sort of cosplays, you can do some weathering on those cosplays, which can really add like some grunge, some wear and tear, make that costume look more realistic, make it look more like the game. So you can also do things like that to a purchased cosplay. So the best way to dress up a cosplay though is really just to have all of the components. So make sure you have a good wig, good shoes, and do your makeup. So if you have all of these things all put together, it can really bring your purchase cosplay to a next level. So even if it's not top notch, having a good wig, having good shoes, having a good prop can really bring all of it up. So those are all tips to make your cosplay look better. So I'm almost out of time, but I hope that was a good idea. So you can see right now, this was a costume that I purchased from, I believe it was Uwu Cosplay. And I made props and did the wig, and it was, and that fit me very well. And generally, I have kind of issues with cosplays being a little too small, but I had success with this one. I think this was like the triple XL size, and I did fine, but I got the glasses and made little cupcakes and everything. So that's a good example of a pretty decent quality cosplay, and all of the pieces are there for it. So, but if you are more interested in getting all the details about the things I talked about, you can definitely go on my Patreon and look at the newsletter. There's all kinds of other newsletters on there about wig styling. So if you are purchasing wigs, about dyeing fabric and using airbrush and using color. So there's another newsletter about that. So any of these things I've talked about, there's a newsletter that kind of supports doing those things so that you can up your game in all those other areas. I have found that as I've gotten older and busier, purchasing cosplays and then doing some of those extra things is really kind of the way to go. And then I just pick a couple of cosplays a year that I really want to invest in and work on. And that saves my sanity. And I don't think I need to apologize for that to anybody, and neither should you. So if you want to purchase a cosplay, go for it. I fully support it. Have fun and do your hobby the way you do you. So I hope that this helps you, or maybe you can send it to somebody else who is going to purchase a cosplay. You can send them the link to the Patreon. And there's also a whole bunch of pictures in here of people who've purchased their cosplays, so you can get an idea of their cosplays and where they purchased them. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you're off for Memorial Day and you have a long weekend ahead of you for just relaxing or maybe doing fun things. I hope you're doing fun things. you will be joining again. I'll be joining you again next month, I believe, June 14th. So if you, and I will look, I'll let you know what the topic for that will be. Or I'm sorry, June 12th, not the 14th, June 12th. Um, so for our next episode with CosMom. And then check out all the other cool things that CTL is doing. They're constantly putting out content. So check out their gaming, their interviewing, all the other stuff that they're doing. So thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.